So we're back with the art fantasy. We did finish part one last time, or actually no, it's just that first section of part one. Yeah, the conditions weren't very good, and also apparently, I guess it was just early on, so maybe I just didn't notice. The conditions weren't that great. And also just the connection. It looked like, even though it was showing steady on, at the beginning of the stream there was quite a bit of instability. But yeah, so we did finish that first section there. In imaginary animals, the monstrous, the wondrous, and the human, Boreas Sachs write, there is some Yeti in every ape, and a bit of Pegasus in every horse. Men and women are not only part angel and part demon, as the old cliche goes, they are also part centaur, werewolf, mandrake, and sphinx. The denizens of Innsmouth are fish people. The Narnian White Witch is part giant, and Nanny Og has a trace of dwarven blood. From the ribald satire of classic Greek mythology up to the latex-clad, lichen-dominant vampire hybrid of the gritty goth contemporary Underworld franchise, many cultures and mythologies have stories to tell of part human spirits, demons, creatures, monsters, and all other fauna of folklore. A number of these mythical creatures are patchwork composites of different existing animals, or of human beings as animals. They have some of the same characteristics. As a human, whether leathery wings, barbed tails, or gasping gills offer just a tiny hint to the fact that they are definitely not 100% just like you or me. Like, we're totally normal, right? I mean, who are we to judge? Some of these entities might walk among us if their differences fly under the radar unnoticed, or they may live in alternative realities or even appear and disappear under specific circumstances. Some are easier to spot, such as John William Waterhouse's luminous mermaid with the upper body of a human woman and bottom half of a fish. A creature which appears across Mediterranean legends, dating back to ancient Mesopotamia. A fascination with fairies, dainty damsels, and garden spirits was a phenomenon of the Victorian age. An artist from Richard Dodd to Richard Doyle, along with the likes of pre-Victorian artists William Blake and Henry Fuseli, and later Arthur Rackham, shared a concrete idea of what the fairy world looked like, with tiny inhabitants whose dispositions ran the gamut from merry and mirthful to wicked and cruel. It's difficult to say why or how these not quite human creatures emerged in minds and myths, but this compulsive human desire to label and delineate distinct categories for animals and people can be traced back to the Middle Ages. Our identities as human Our perceptions of our own uniqueness and dominance over the natural world, defined by our separation from the animal, linger still, with philosophers and anthropologists long debating the meaning and importance of the human-adjacent creatures that appear in the history of our stories. In some cultures, they represent various aspects of human nature, or may have had an allegorical purpose, acting as cautionary tales. Sometimes they may have been products of overactive human imagination, longing to see someone incredible and picturing human forms on non-human objects or creatures. These entities sometimes hold wondrous spiritual or magical powers. Some are helpful creatures, or at the very least harmless, while others are mischievous or malicious, or even meant as blatant representations of evil. Some are painted as protectors, benevolent and wise, others interpreted as tricksters, cunning and crafty, or reflected as rascals or roguish rapscallions. Some are worshipped and feared as gods themselves. The trouble with human hybrid creatures, or anything different from us really, is that they disturb our sense of the world, remind us how small we are and how little we know, that we too essentially are animals, and animals are very much like us, from the savage end of the spectrum to the wholly purely innocent. This is the power of the hybrid creature. When we look into its human eyes, we see ourselves looking back from the animal body that we deny we inhabit. However, and why ever they were first invented into our mindscapes, a fantastic array of almost human entities appear in our most beloved legends, stories, myths, and even religions all across the globe. And no doubt these strange and wondrous characters will play a part in our stories and superstitions as long as we are here to dream them into being. Well, if you're here for when we were opening Cryptic, pretty sure you'll instantly recognize this one when I was complaining about their wholesale inclusion of classical pieces. In this captivating image of quiet vulnerability, a mermaid combs her lustrous abundance of hair as she rests on a sprawl of seaweed-strewn rocks on an isolated cove. The shimmering strength of her tail curled beneath her, an abalone shell scattered with pearls, and the tears of dead sailors beside her. She wistfully gazes into the distance, unheeding of our eyes, intruding upon her moment of reflection. Is this moment of enigmatic melancholia something else entirely? Perhaps a calculated move on the siren's part. When perceiving our gaze, she notes our hunger for magic and miracles. Well, I don't think that's what most sailors would be hungry for. In feigning unawareness of our presence, it is all the easier to lure us to our watery doom. John William Waterhouse's fascination with the darker aspects of the mermaid's mythology as both a tragic figure and enchantress drives this work, and with it, he invites us to dive into the mystery and discover her intentions for ourselves. For an artist who initially avoided mythological and historical subjects in favor of a realistic style of painting, local people, and contemporary life, Russian artist Viktor Mikhailovich Kuznetsov certainly revealed a fascination with the fantastically mythic in his later works. Widely thought of as the co-founder of Russian folklorist painting and a key figure in the Russian revivalist movement, he was integral in moving realism towards a more nationalist and historical style, believing that A true work of art conveys the past, present, and maybe even the future. Vasnetsov's birds are animated and passionate. In this work, Siren weeps with despair, while Alchemist appears to sing joyfully, gesturing broadly with her wings. There are two sides of a coin, and you cannot have one without the other. Neither of the two has arms, which makes them more bird than human, emphasizing their identity as mythical beasts. It's not yelling at me for being unstable like it was last time, but does seem to be catching the wind. So I was thinking I might adjust the balance. Renowned Peruvian-American painter Boris Vallejo is universally considered to be one of the masters of modern fantasy illustration. His instantly recognizable, lavishly hyperrealistic, to the point of the surreal paintings have appeared on the covers of numerous science fiction and fantasy fiction novels, trading cards, and posters, with subjects encompassing heroes from myth and legend, fearsome prehistoric creatures, and the cosmic serenity of ocean life, from the epic sword and sorcery battles to the strange flora, fauna, and denizens of extraterrestrial landscapes. Vallejo has painted boldly fantastical visions of almost every major fantasy figure that we know and love, and showed us some stunning fantasies we'd never even dreamed up. The lush, luminous oil paintings of Chie Yoshi explores timeless, psychological themes through a mythical lens and aim to capture the ethereality of a moment and render it eternal. Her work, a masterful mix of techniques and style, evoke the atmosphere of traditional Flemish horticulture, embellished with meticulous jewelry and sumptuous fabrics, but the direct commanding gaze of her subjects lends an air of contemporary sophistication and strength. The artist often features animal companions in her works, from the mundane and many-legged to the fantastical winged and scaled variety, and whose appearance suggests companionship and camaraderie rather than danger or menace, or on the other end of the spectrum, mere pet ownership. I believe this means Munch made all three books as well. Edvard Munch's mermaid looks like she is desperately looking for an excuse not to show up for that thing she promised to attend a month ago, when she was maybe feeling deceptively energetic and probably all hopped on those tricksy endorphins after a vigorous ocean swim. Now she's having regrets because she's a midnight introvert and probably just wants to stay in her grotto, chill out, and look at her collections of gadgets and gizmos aplenty. She definitely does not want to be where the people are, or maybe she's a manifestation of Munch's preoccupation with loneliness and anxiety, in the form of a fish woman painted by the artist as part of a commission from a Norwegian industrialist for large-scale decorative work during an extended stay in Paris. Fantasy is only limited by our imaginations, and anxious people's imaginations, no doubt, work overtime. For 3 decades, artist Ed Binkley has brought to life traditional folklore through glimpses into imaginary worlds of woodland fantasy. Meticulously detailed fairies, mystical beings, and other curious, improbable creatures inhabit these dreamlike realms. Ascribed with human-related beauty and possibly imbued with human-like empathy and understanding. Perhaps these beings even seek our human company. In his professorial role at Madison College, Binkley pronounced to his students, "If you can imagine it, you can create it," a promise fulfilled time and again in the viewing of his thrillingly imagined creations. Luciano Loop Vasconcelos is a Brazilian artist whose work seeks to explore the realms of the mythical and mystical, and whose practice involves an interdisciplinary approach to art and magic. The resulting visions are striking and secretive, brimming with potent symbolism culled from the unconscious, and vibrant with feminine power. The shadowy trio of disaffected fairies look like they could be waiting in line for an event at Whitby Goth Weekend. And yes, they are ignoring you. Celebrated French artist Paul-Émile Chabas was a member of the Académie des Beaux-Arts and a painter of nudes, portraits, and seascapes. They loved him in Europe. He first exhibited at the Paris Salon in 1890 and received a number of awards and accolades over the next several decades. Sentiments elsewhere, however, were not as flattering, and reproductions of his most infamous painting depicting a lakeside scene of an unclad young woman protecting her bare skin against a cool breeze in the autumn morning sun caused controversy and scandal in the United States. A similar painting, in a very literal sense, a watery scene, its subject au naturel, Chabas's darkly luminous glimpse of a naiad idling in a crystalline cove leans more into the fantastic, but the expression on her face is pure jaded realism. Illustrator, cartoonist, painter, and bachelor with a big brown beard, Thomas Maybank was a regular Renaissance man, counting singing baritone and playing the piano and organ among his other pastimes. Mostly, however, he was known for his meticulous depictions of fairies, pixies, and magical landscapes, works which were used on advertising posters, prints, and children's books, as well as contributions to Punch and the Daily Sketch. Most likely inspired by Richard Doyle, Joel Noel Paton, and possibly George Cruikshank's earlier fairy illustrations. His charming and imaginative artworks were compositions full of character and movement, and can perhaps be seen as a forerunner of Walt Disney's creations. Well, at least if this one is anything to go up by, doesn't seem very like a proto-Disney to me. Theodore Severin Kittelsen was a Norwegian artist, one of the most popular in Norway, famous for his illustrations of fairy tales and legends, and eerie Nordic folklore. Kittelsen's dreamlike canvases rendered in muted tones depicting mountaintop troll magic down to sea ghosts deep in the bogs reveal his melancholic longing for his countryside. During his stay in Munich, the artist is noted to have opined, "What appeals to me are the mysterious, romantic, and magnificent aspects of our scenery. It is becoming clearer and clearer to me what I have to do, and I have had more ideas, but I must get home. Otherwise, it won't work. From strong sculpted goddesses riding winged horses to the marvel of airborne women soaring aloft on vibrantly colored wings of their own, the lush dramatic realism of master fantasy artist Julie Bell is instantly recognizable. A former nationally ranked competitive bodybuilder, fascination with the body and knowledge of anatomy has allowed her to instill her figures of both humans and animals with grace and strength. And at the heart of this passion is found an intense curiosity and reverence, honor and respect for the vast and varied spectrum of emotions. Julie's work in the fantasy and science fiction field has appeared on hundreds of book covers, collectibles, and comic books, where she became the first woman to illustrate Conan the Barbarian for Marvel Comics. The portfolio of Julie Dillon teems with gorgeous visions and glowing vibrance, seekers, savior, gods, and mortals. Her eyes are drawn to all, her striking expressive characters equally and intently. Dillon notes, I love finding the magic in the world around me. Try to use bold color and fantastical narratives to express that. Without a doubt, magic and myth is a common thread that binds these visual tales, from acolytes making ancient arcane discoveries to docile flying desert turtles and powerful deep sea spell working to a grimly triumphant Medusa astride a man-made stone throne. Believe this is our actual first Geiger in any of these, which is strange. Who would have thought she'd have featured him in Darkness at least. The disturbing dreamscapes and unparalleled vision of Hans Rudy Geiger span paintings, sculptures, film work, and iconic album covers. His most famous design, both graceful and grotesque, the perfect embodiment of an otherworldly menace, terrorized Sigourney Weaver on screen in the 1979 film Alien. Geiger's work often features biomechanical forms, somewhat human in shape but void of humanity. Mechanical in structure but organic in nature. The fantastically dark and surreal nature of these beings alarmed and aroused in equal measure, a style of artwork that has had an immense and far-reaching effect in the world of fantasy art. I'm going to skip that bit. It reminded me her of some of the most grating of her writing, and it really didn't seem like it added anything about the artist or piece. I don't know if you had a weird witchy mother who secreted away tarot decks in every nook and corner of your childhood home, but I sure did. One of these decks absolutely bewitched little me, and to this day I still think it is one of the most mysterious and immersive worlds I have never visited. Karen Kuykendall drew her inspiration for the cat people from the outer regions featured in that tarot deck of childhood memory from an incredible collection of sources, including Native American folk art, 1960s hippie culture, and ancient Egypt. Like the most memorable fantasy realms, it is complex, rich with detail, and highly atmospheric. Today, as I was then, I remain obsessed and ensorcelled with every intricate nuance pertaining to these dazzling people in their elaborate costumes with bespangled Byzantine jewelry and headdresses, fantastic stories that no doubt span generations of fascinating, beautiful cat people. Well, let's take a look at yeah, we might yeah, I think I'm going to just go ahead and end here. While that does look doable time-wise, it's a bit colder out than I was reckoning on, and I did not bring a jacket. So, while up to this point it's been somewhat bearable, I'm not exactly looking forward to be out here for what it would take to get through. So we'll probably be picking this back up tomorrow.